Local journalism is in really tough shape in the United States today. Newspapers all over the country are closing. The traditional newspaper establishment is laying off reporters, reducing staff, and that means less news for people in local communities.
So as a result, a lot of the in-depth coverage that you once got from, say, in this area, the Lansing State Journal, it just isn't there because the number of journalists and the bodies aren't there anymore.
And the result of that is you end up with places where there is very little or no local news. People have actually studied this problem and found that when that happens, government corruption goes up, government waste goes up. It has a direct impact on the lives of the people who live there. So the reason Eli exists is because we want to have a newspaper here. We want to be able to know what's going on at our city council, at our school board, in terms of big development, in terms of community activities. We need to know what's going on in our town in order to have good lives. And so we've got a newspaper now through East Lansing Info.
Eli is a special organization. So many news organizations now depend on news releases and essentially dribbles and drabs of information from the government. But Eli actually goes and gathers information. They go to the meetings, they interview people.
We've broken a lot of the biggest stories in this town. Things like the eBay land sale, the whistleblowers at the wastewater treatment plant. Many of the big stories you've heard about in East Lansing happened because East Lansing Info was here to do the investigative work and bring that news to you. Some of the people who report for East Lansing Info are professional reporters, but a lot of the people who report pretty straightforward stories for us, like about an art project or about what's happened at a particular meeting, these are ordinary people in our community who we've brought into the system, who we've helped train to bring high quality news, and they go out and they do the reporting.
I've learned that East Lansing Info really trusts their writers, they trust their staff, and it's kind of like, here, go with it. Like, you tell us what the story is. They encourage us to take the story wherever it should go instead of giving constraints, so I really enjoy that as a writer. And also a reader, because you end up getting a better story that way.
Journalism has always been a big passion, and I've always felt very strongly that journalists should live and work in their own community so they're in touch and have a passion for what is going on around them. This really meant a lot to me that it was taking place here in a town that I've decided to make my hometown.
I think Eli is very reachable to where you might have an idea, even as a citizen, even if you're not a journalist, say, hey, I heard this is going on in the city or something's happening. Do you think you might be able to send somebody over to ask a few questions? And Eli does a really nice job of following up on some of those lead angles, and it's really provided, I think, a really nice news source for the citizens.
What we do is make sure that people in the community own the organization. Nobody owns Eli except the community. We're run by a nonprofit foundation, and basically what we're doing is making sure that what the community needs is what we do. So we think really carefully about how to bring news in a way that is socially responsible. We rely on reader donations, and if it were not the case that we were doing news that this community believed in, they would shut us down. And that keeps us honest. It keeps us attentive to being nonpartisan, to bringing high quality news, to making sure that what we're doing is for the benefit of the community.
So I think that nonprofit status helps organize an institution in a way that it works for the benefit of the community. And I think that's part of the reason why the model that Eli has demonstrated so well in East Lansing is starting to show up and blossom in other communities as well.